let's talk about the ever-classic and ever-fearsome orcs. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. And we're going to keep looking at their classic depictions of evil fantasy races and the like, and finding ways of interjecting new life, cultural details, and so many other things to help kind of freshen things up a bit and make these things feel new and lively and possibly fit better into your own homebrew worlds. And for today's example, we are going, of course, with that classic, Orcs. Now, before we get into the exact details of what it is we're doing here, if you're new here to the channel, then go on down there and hit the subscribe button and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or, if you've already listed yourself as part of such a legendary roster, then go on down, hit the like button, and share the video far and wide to help us grow ever further. But now, let's talk about the Orcs. So, for today, I could only find one example of a real-world culture that I felt like could have some overlap and thus mesh easier as you go about mashing things up. And that was the Mongols, the ancient Mongols in particular, centered around the time of Genghis Khan. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. One, strength was definitely valued in Mongol society. It was in several, but for Mongols, yeah, I think we can safely say that there was an emphasis on this. Not only that, but the Mongols were a tribal nomadic people that lived a pretty solid, pretty rich lifestyle out on harsh terrain on the Mongolian steppes. It's definitely a rugged lifestyle and definitely a harsh one. Something that also fits a description with the Orcs. And not only were they nomadic and lived in a in this harsh, rugged terrain, but they also had a great value for combat, and not only with combat, but there's also a system of blood feuds between tribes, where you strike me, I strike you, and there's this history of retaliation that kind of goes back and forth, which kind of helped the different tribes to form up with different traditional enemies. But there's also traditional allies that were formed between the different Mongolian tribes. Just as an example, going back to Genghis Khan, he formed an alliance with a Khan because, well, at the time Genghis was not a Khan. Khan is a ruler. And he cemented this alliance by taking a fairly fancy and expensive fur coat and giving it to this Khan in order to help cement an alliance, and it worked. This Khan basically treated him like an adopted son, and that cemented down a really important alliance early on in Genghis's life that allowed him to build towards his future endeavors, although they weren't always endeavors that he wanted to pursue or had goals of pursuing, but we can get into that another time. Point is, there was this cultural tradition of blood feuds and rivalries between certain tribes, and also methods and means of establishing alliances between other tribes. So there's this very rich, diverse culture of different political interplay and webs of alliances and enemies and the like, and that can all come together pretty nicely. So this is where the Orcs and the Mongols can end up having some of that cultural overlap. The emphasis on strength, then there's honor, debt, repayment, blood feuds, and the like, establishing different alliances with different, larger, more powerful clans, and nomadic lifestyle, the goat herding lifestyle, herding horses in particular being especially important to life on the Mongolian steppes. And then all the different cultural aspects, just absolutely beautiful. The throat singing, and listening to the Who, modern day Mongolian metal band, it's absolutely fantastic. And you just feel this sense of how rich the underlying culture really, really is. And I could get lost in the details there. Larger point being that by meshing and overlapping these two, you can start to find other points that are fairly interesting, like the whole nomadic lifestyle and horses being very important towards the Mongolians. Well, do the Orcs have traditions of any kind of mounted lifestyle, or at least mounted combat? Yes, they do, specifically riding wargs or dire wolves and the like. While not horses, that's still another point of overlap there, especially if you're going with that nomadic tribe kind of setting. Maybe there's a greater emphasis on having wargs and wolves to ride upon in battle and just in general day-to-day life. And then you can overlap it even further, because since strength is something that the Orcs are really known for, having a great degree of muscular strength, especially upper body strength in particular, this makes them excellent archers. Now, for a lot of games, there's more of an emphasis on dexterity when it comes to hitting a target, and that's certainly important. Having good hand-eye coordination helps, but what's more important is the musculoskeletal strength and endurance. Because most of your war bows that you are going to be using to fire arrows meant and designed for war, are going to have at least, at minimum, a 100-pound draw weight, if not 110 or 120 pounds. So, that strength is massively important. Sure, once you get the bow drawn back and bent, maybe it's a little bit easier to hold that position, but if you're doing it repeatedly over and over and over again in the midst of combat, having to carefully aim and adjust and hit the target in the gaps of the armor, or in parts of the armor where you know there's weakness or things that are just exposed and vulnerable, that takes a great degree of skill, but it also takes a lot of strength, because you're not just immediately releasing the arrow as soon as it's drawn. You're holding and you're aiming and getting set, and you need that strength for that draw weight. So, since Orcs make some pretty damn good archers in that regard, and Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder have mechanics for that, with bows that deal more damage the higher strength you have, and also have a better range, you can put Orcs on their wargs and their wolves and have them be mounted combat archers with the recurve bows, with the composite recurve bows, riding into battle and just laying in with arrow after arrow, picking apart their opponents. And how terrifying would that be? Organized orc cavalry on the backs of wargs and wolves, just ripping everything to shreds. And then when they're out of arrows, or it's time to charge or flank, and they've broken up the enemy formation with deadly arrow fire, they go in leveling lances, hit the enemy. Once the lances are broken gone, they just pull out their sabers and falchions and start laying into things and going to town. Absolutely devastating, and I love the mental image that creates. Definitely something you want to do with your Orcs. And there's certainly so much more to Mongolian culture and lifestyle as well, too. I mean, there's a great emphasis on wrestling being a very important thing. And then everything that Genghis managed to accomplish in his life, and he didn't really want to pursue a lot of the warfare that he got into, but situations and circumstances dictated that he go that way. So that could be another interesting angle to throw in for your Orcs, your NPCs, the world's lore, and all of these histories and things that might intertwine and mesh and bind together to really create an interesting story. And that's the whole point of what we're doing here today, is finding ways of making things more interesting. But what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Hit those like or dislike buttons either way, and we'll engage in discussion down below. And if you haven't done so already, then go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.